the property, cash, and bought it subject to. I lived in it for close to a year and a half. I did Airbnb on 2 of the bedrooms. I converted the garage into my office. Um, did the quarantine there and everything, and then just sold it for $765,000. And since I had indicated it was a primary residence, it'll be tax free. So I walked away with over 100,000 profit on that one, and got to live for free, sort of for free, for a good amount of time, and learned how to do subject to the whole 9 yards. So that's why I say I went through a lot of stuff, because I also ran out of cash like once or twice during that time, because I was putting so much money into the property, and I buying other properties, and yeah, it was a lot of stress, but I'm glad it's finally over.
That's awesome. Over 6 figures, man. Woo-hoo! Congratulations. That's fantastic. Yeah, it's always frustrating when you run out of money and you're always trying to figure out how to pay for all those construction bills, and you've got people needing to keep moving forward, and you know that every day that goes by without construction happening is costing you money. But that's awesome. So if you were to do it all over again, what's your top lesson that you would have changed?
I probably would have maybe I would have sold it right as it hit the 1 year mark instead of waiting until like a year and a half, because it was the wisest thing I did, sell it. Sometimes when we get attached to property, even as an investor, you still make that mistake, and you don't look at it logically and say, hey, this seems to be the best answer. So I think it's just being more logical with the transactions in general is always going to be helpful as an investor. Just think what, it makes the most sense. And sometimes it's a hard decision to make. And that's what happens when you get attached to the property emotionally and not thinking logically.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, so you mentioned that whole 2-year thing. For some folks that are brand new to real estate investing, how does that 2-year deal work, so that way you don't have to pay taxes?
Yeah, if you indicate it's a primary residence, and you could prove that it was your primary residence, typically you need to be in there 2 years to get an exemption of up to $500,000 tax-free, meaning you could sell a property, make $500,000 profit, and not pay anything. If you're married, if you're single, it would be $250,000. And then if you're there at least 1 year, then that's basically kind of prorated. So since I was there in a year and a half, and I was eligible for up to $250,000, and the profit was only like 100 something. So I think it's a strategy that some people use. They buy a fixer-upper, live in it for a couple years, then sell it tax-free, then move on and do that again and again. I know somebody that does it here in LA, and they sell their property every 2 to 4 years and make close to that, and they buy high-end properties. So it's a strategy you can use.
So long as your spouse is okay with picking up and moving every 2 years, and you're golden, right?
Yeah, that's another challenge in itself.
Yeah, that's good though. Good thing you're single. You could do it. I used to do that before I got married, and then one of the guys who were giving me marriage counseling at the time, he's like, hey, you should probably not move every time you buy and sell a house, because eventually your wife's not going to like it. So I listened to him for a while, and I think I'm going to go back to the old ways. It's much more fun the other way. Cool. Well, welcome, man.
Okay, cool. Where are you right now?
I'm in your backyard, bro. Stalking you. I am stalking you.
Where in this world are you now?
You're in the backyard
Of a condo?
40.
You're cutting out.
Condo, just breathing in the air.
I wasn't sure if that was me cutting out or if that was, is that Ashley talking?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Ashley. Hey, new face, Zarin. Zarin, is that how you say your name?
Zarin. How's it going, Zarin?
Zarin.
Yeah, mute, bro, I think.
You're muted. I want to know where Matthew Wolf is. At first, I thought it was Matt the Wolf. You read that wrong at first.
Matthew Wolf is in New Jersey.
You look like you're in New York or something.
Matt, your sound, your microphone's a little off. Matthew is an investor out of New Jersey. He lives right across from New York. He just landed 2 houses in Seattle as passive income, and the construction company is renovating his houses right now. In fact, one of his houses was in really bad shape, but it turned out to be one of our favorite houses on our construction company. So Matthew, we're gonna have photos of your before and afters because your property is pretty amazing now.
Nice. Well, I don't know if it's just me or not, but everyone seems to be cutting out. Maybe it's a Zoom thing today, but hopefully we can make it through because we have a awesome. I'm excited for this one actually. Daniel's gonna be.
Yeah, Corey, I'm gonna let you take lead. I think the bandwidth over here is kind of slow too for some reason.
Okay, no problem. All right. Well, thanks everybody again for jumping on. Happy Aloha Friday. Hopefully it was a great week. Everybody crushed it. And I guess why don't we start with our normal leads, needs, and good deeds. I had something to bring up too, but while everyone's thinking. So put it in the chat or go ahead and just open the mic and speak up. Now's the time. There's a lot of resources on this call, like we always talk about. I see a lot of new faces too. So I know James is looking for a deal out in Hawaii, all islands, except for Molokai probably. Or I don't know, maybe you would roll the dice over there. And our guy Zarin.
So Corey, explain a little bit what leads, needs, and good deeds is all about for the people that are brand new tuning in.
Actually, yeah, that's a good point. So leads, needs, and good deeds is basically a short segment that we have every Friday call to open up the mic for everybody to kind of talk about what they have to give. Maybe you're an investor and you got funds that you want to place in some deals, or maybe you're an investor yourself, you're looking for a deal or looking for funds. And then also good deeds is something good that you've done or you're proud of, maybe a win in the week, because it's always good to share those. And we have people from all over the country and even the world sometimes. If Nadal is on the line, he's our international guy. So I know James Tanaka's looking for a deal. The Kalama's over there. Are you guys on site at someplace? Looks like, maybe office. Tristan's office. They're looking for deals. Everybody's looking for deals.
So describe the deals you guys are looking for so we can all be helping to look for what you're looking for.
James, why don't you want to talk about what you're looking for?
Yeah, sure. So what we're looking for is any type of fix and flip type property in Hawaii, anywhere in Hawaii. I don't know about Molokai though. I did come across some in Molokai, but really not sure about that market. But anywhere in Hawaii, we are looking for any type of fix and flip property. If you're an investor and you just have a property that you don't really want to take down yourself, I'm interested if the numbers work out. If you're a wholesaler, for sure, give me a holler.
Awesome.
Hey, so James, how's your criteria changing at all in this season in terms of numbers? Are anything changing, or give us what your numbers are for what you're looking for?
Actually, no. We're in the beginning, yeah. It kind of changed. We're kind of real conservative. Kind of trying to see how the market was going to run. But it seems to be in Hawaii anyway. It seems to be a really good market, especially with the low inventory. So I'm basically looking for anything. Just trying to get in there on a deal, get moving.
Perfect. Okay, everybody, we have Mama Cheryl on the line, so everybody got to behave. Kikwa. Behave. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, sweetie.
So everybody,
Cheryl's on the call.
Cheryl Matsuoka, she's a dear friend of ours and also a mentor of ours. She sits on our advisory board for the fund, so we don't blow up the whole ship.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. I see a lot of ladies from WIN on it also.
Yay!
Up to yes, Lily. I see
Explain what
everyone.
WIN is, Cheryl.
Huh?
Can you explain what WIN is? Your WIN network?
Yes, it's the Women's Investment Network, and it's a free meetup. And we used to, when we could gather, go to fix and flips, and we've been to a bunch of Corey's, and the women actually go to the rehab house itself. And to join, how can we do this? Miss Layla, if I have them just send it to the app, I don't know what's the best way of doing this. We can get your emails, and when we can gather again, and we're near that, we're in tier 1 right now. The governor is going to be signing some major things this next week, and then we'll be moving to tier 2, which is right now we're at 5, and then we'll be moving to 10 and then 25 and then 50. So when we're at that route, when we're at that tier 4, then we'll be able to have WIN meetings again. Corey, there's a couple of exciting things as on the right now for commercial rent relief. So later you and I can have a conversation. If anybody has commercial property, I'll be able to help them.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. I was wondering what's going on in the commercial space.
Yeah, we're talking about
we'd love to hear all those insights.
That's really just for Hawaii though, right? That I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So, we're praying that he approves some of the initiatives that we've been working on. It's
super interesting.
Alex Young is trying to make his way to Hawaii, but this quarantine's kind of setting it back. So any word on the lifting the quarantine in Hawaii?
October 15th is going to be lifted.
Entirely?
Yes. You still gotta do the the testing and everything. But if they're still gonna do the testing at the airport. You still gotta do the test before you come. But you won't have to be quarantined after October 15th.
You guys soon.
I heard that might get extended to the 29th. Have you heard that, Cheryl?
Who's this? Who is that?
Oh, sorry, Ashley.
Honey,
hi.
Honey, what we're doing is we're watching the tier numbers. If you want me, I have the tiers, and if it does not go up, all the hotels, everybody, now there's a big movement to open up everything October 15th. And we're praying that the numbers stay low, girl. The numbers stay low. We're
Preach.
Good.
Praying so hard.
It is so painful. I mean, as everyone knows on this call, I'm the executive director for the Restaurant Association. And so the restaurant industry actually has tanked, and Layla knows what I do. So yeah. But yes, October 15th is the target date. If all the numbers stay good, the numbers, and I have the tiers if anybody needs it. And Kari, I'm working on commercial rent relief. So anybody needs anything, I'm a resource. The Women's Investment Network, when we can get together again, we go out to the rehabs, and Corey's done a bunch for us. We find out what they actually purchased it for. We look at pictures of what it looked like. Layla is really good at, redesigning everything and making it look all nice, and then what the ARV is after. So, we want to support the women through this journey.
Awesome.
I'm going to mute myself, honey.
Okay. Well, Cheryl's like the busiest. I thought I was busy. Cheryl's like the busiest person in this world. So thank you, Cheryl, for joining us.
No worries. Thank you so much for doing
Make
this.
it even more busier though. Like you guys should do the WIN meetup virtually. Just throwing it out there.
And Corey, I'm ready to open the store in less than 30 days, right?
Okay.
Yeah, Noah Marketplace.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, thank you, Cheryl.
Which store is that one?
The UPS store. I become the newest franchisee for the UPS store in Hawaii. Oahu, in Oahu.
Wow.
How are you taking this all on?
So who's that? I can't see who's talking.
Ashley again.
Honey. So what it is, honey, is when I looked at, Layla knows that I do vision boards. And one of the things I looked at was really what is going to create a consistent income. Girlfriend, mailboxes.
Mailboxes,
They
yep.
pay you every
I
month.
wonder if that's that.
They pay you every month because they want their mail. It's rent every month that they're paying, and that pays your rent. And then you do the shipping and you do the packing and you do all the other services that the UPS store does. The printing, the notary, the everything else. So I'm a month away from opening. Corey
You're
knows
such a
about
boss lady. My goodness.
No, I'm not. Layla knows, no, I'm not. Layla does know.
Congratulations, Auntie Cheryl. You're awesome. Such inspiration. One day we're going to have you as a guest and we're just going to talk business strategy and how to crush it.
I'd just like to say that she does all of this without caffeine. Like, I don't know how to wake up in the morning and just goes, no caffeine.
Yeah, I can't drink coffee. If anybody gives me coffee, Layla knows I'll be on the ceiling, hanging down from the light. Layla, I cannot take coffee. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, Cheryl, check the chat when you have a chance. Elijah wants to ping you about UPS, and then
yeah.
there's another thing in the chat from Helena.
Yeah.
Ige, so our governor.
Yes. There's a couple of things that Ige has on his desk today, and it's gonna be happening really, really soon. So yeah.
Okay.
So because I'm the restaurant industry, I'm also the utility contractors industry, and Layla knows what we do. So
thank you, Cheryl. So Cheryl is one of the reasons too, like that one of the biggest lessons I learned was the concept of social capital, right? Which is exactly what we're doing here today, is building and nurturing genuine mutually beneficial relationships, because that is like real currency, and these meetups, and unfortunately we can't meet up in person, but it's almost a blessing because we get to meet people from across the nation who are on this call, even in this, across the country, or internationally with Nadal over here. Sometimes he's in Saudi Arabia, sometimes he's Abu Dhabi. So thank you guys again for jumping on. Does anybody have a deal that they're working on right now? Like they're in contract or they're looking to close a deal right now? Anybody? There's gotta be one person here.
You mean like for the lending? Like what do you mean exactly?
No, just about to go into a deal, like just getting into contract.
I just picked up a new flip in Compton, so I'm in contract right now. I got 2 more weeks. I should be closing on that. I'm putting that together.
Nice. How do you fund your deals, Alex? All private capital, hard money and private?
Well, I just use hard money, and then this one, it's the first one I'm gonna do where I'm gonna get a private money second and not really use any of my own money.
So before you were doing hard money and putting your own funds in second?
Yeah.
Or putting your own funds?
20% down, and then the rehab out of pocket. But I've had this friend that's been asking to invest in a deal for a while, so she's gonna put up the money for the to bridge the second.
Gotcha. Okay.
A couple then under contract, but it's out of state. We got 4 out of state under contract, but one just kind of fell out this morning. So
what type of deal is that?
Just rentals, single family.
Single family.
Which state are you going to?
KC and Jax.
I just met another investor in KC, and he says he's doing really good. He's a physician, and he says they're crushing it over there. Are you finding appreciation is happening as well, or are you just working off of?
Appreciation right now is showing like over 4 on both, and something I seen, I think it was this morning, about the migration that's happening from all these people leaving these states, and looks like Jax is like the #1 as far as where they're moving to, and then in migration, and then KC was like #4 or 5 or something like that.
Well, I know Jacksonville's been an emerging market for quite a while, or a few years now. So, and Kansas City at the we had the meetup last night. I don't know if we're supposed to have that or not, but there's a lot of people I think on this call too who are in Jackson or Kansas City. So sounds like that's a market to be in for some cash flow, huh? Cash flow and appreciation. So, which is perfect. I guess if anybody has anything, just drop it in the chat. We got to figure out another way. It's so hard on Zoom because to open the mic and, you know, let people talk about what they need and stuff. So I guess that's why we have the Facebook group. Everybody can, you know, put what they need in the Facebook group. And I've been actually happy to see people jumping in there and helping out. So, but today we're bringing on Daniel Kong, who's a friend of ours, and he's been doing deals in Indianapolis. And I want to hear a lot about this because he's doing a lot of the BRRR strategy. So, and he's going to do a deal analysis kind of for us today. Do you have a presentation you need to share? Do you need the controls, Daniel?
I don't need the controls. I gave Justin I just have like one slide. So I guess maybe I'll just give like a short background or intro on myself. And so I'm a like relatively new investor. I started in like the end of like 2018, and then I read all the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, you know, and like that book changed my life. After I got it, I was like, oh, I want cash flow, you know, and so I just went to the forums, I watched all the YouTubes and everything, and then I just kind of came to like, at first I was like, I want multifamily because I want cash flow, but then I realized like I don't have a lot of money. So then like I could buy like one rental and then I'm out, and then like I'm done already, you know. So just trying to like figure out like how like this real estate thing works and like some other strategies that might be able to work for me. And then after like a little while, I mean, listen to Bigger Pockets, like BRRRR at the time was all the rage, you know. And so like just like the fundamentals of it just made so much sense that I was like, okay, this is something that I really want to pursue. And so in the past like couple of years, I've just kind of been going hard after like the BRRRRs. And the beauty of the BRRRRs, I'm not sure how much you guys want me to explain, how many are kind of newer investors or more seasoned, but it's you buy a property, you rehab it up to kind of get a little bit better shape, you rent it out, you refinance it to hopefully pull out all your capital, and then you repeat the process over and over. And so the ideal BRRRR is like you have no money in at the end of the deal, and you have like this little like cash flowing like oil well that's gonna give you money until like the day you die. That's kind of like the idea. So
awesome. Well, and thanks, Daniel, for coming on. It was kind of last minute, but Daniel, when I first met Daniel, you reached out to me, right? And we had a meeting, and he's a true go giver. You know, he built out kind of our whole back end system for our fund, which was very necessary at the time. And him, me, Daniel, and Alex were up to like midnight or past that. Alex and I were up 24 hours, you know, and we were, you know, in a hotel room, just kind of figuring out process mapping and setting up the infrastructure. So thank you so much, Daniel, for your help and your friendship. So let me ask you, what made you choose Indianapolis, and how many projects do you have going on, or how many properties do you own out there right now?
So like when I'm kind of I do software as my day job. So I'm kind of like a numbers guy, like Excel or whatever. So I actually wrote like a script in the beginning to just scrape. So I just want to analyze deals, right? So like someone told me like, it's like when you're going shopping, like let's say you go to the supermarket or whatever, and then like how do you know that cheese at $2 is a good deal? Like you don't know it unless like you go out every day and you're checking the prices, right? So if the first time you go there, you don't know whether $2 is a good deal, is a bad deal, or it was expensive. And so the same with the real estate prices is like, I had like no background in real estate, no clue as like what is what. And so the advice I was given was just like analyze 100 deals, and like that's like a baseline. So once you analyze 100 deals, you kind of figure out like what makes a good rental, what doesn't make a good rental. And so I started inputting like hand by hand. I built like the spreadsheet, and then it was so tedious and like time consuming to like look through like turnkey sites or look through the MLS and just like analyze deal after deal. And then I was like, since I do software, I just wrote a script that just scrapes websites, and I scraped like all the turnkey websites that I was like looking, and I plopped them into like my spreadsheets. And then I kind of found like there's just certain markets that on average they cash flow better than other markets. So like there's this thing called the price to rent ratio, where it's like how much does the property rent for versus how much you can buy it for. So let's say for instance in Hawaii you can buy a property for, let's say, like $600,000 and you rent it for $3,000. And so the price to rent ratio would be 50% because you rent it for $3,000 and you bought it for $600. You go to like a place like Indy, like the average price to rent ratio is probably closer to like 90%. Or you buy a house for $100,000, you can rent it for like $900. So if you were to have like the same 6 houses in Indy, your total rent would be like a lot higher than if you boarded up by that one house in Hawaii. And so just doing some kind of like just like analysis, I just found like there's certain markets on average that cash flow better than others. And so if I wanted to do on my exit of the BRRRR, I needed something that's going to cash flow. It's easier to find a property that's going to cash flow in a market like Indy than it would be like to in Hawaii. So
Yeah.
ideally you want to invest where you live because it's just so much more convenient. But for me, just Hawaii is such a hard market. And plus the price points when I was first starting, I had no capital. So like, there's no way, I honestly felt like it was impossible to like invest in Hawaii because how can I afford $600,000? You know, like I didn't even know what hard money was at the time too. So.
Right. Well, I mean, you've come a long ways real quick, and I know why. You know, a smart guy. That's why. That you're scraping the data because right now we live in the information age, right? And so data and information is so valuable. Why do you think TikTok, that deal with TikTok, is so complicated? Because they hold a lot of data and a lot of information, and that can be used, for good and bad, right? So I see both sides of that deal, but. Anyways, that's very interesting that you did that. And it's so true because you got to understand what market you're in, right? What type of market you're in. Like Hawaii is an equity market, 100%. It's very, very, very hard to cash flow here. So, I mean, I give this example all the time. If you have $500,000 and that's all you had to invest, you could probably buy a 1-bedroom condo, maybe in Kaka'ako, and rent it out for maybe $2,300 a month, right? Whereas if you took that same $500,000 and you go to a market like Jacksonville, Florida, you could buy 10 for $50,000, and rent it out from $700 to $900 a month, right? So with the same amount of money, you make $2,300 a month or $7,000 to $9,000 with the same cash, right? Roughly.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly the same kind of conclusion I came to. And also like the numbers are easier for me to swallow, like buying a $50,000 house versus buying like a $600,000 house. It's like a big difference, It's what I could afford at the time, with my borrowing power, et cetera, kinds of things. And so like, it came to the same conclusion as far as just like the only problem is like out of state is a little more challenging because you're not actually there. So there's like a little bit more added kind of complexity to trying to manage a rehab or manage a property out of state. But I mean, there's the information, the internet. I mean, there's networks. There's so many like resources available to you today. I mean, I would highly recommend David Green's book, Long Stay Real Estate Investing. Like, I took like all the parts of that book and just basically applied it to like my strategy. And then, just like in Indy. So in 2019, I did 6 BRRRRs in Indy, and so like that's kind of like where it's like where my portfolio is right now.
So you have 6 out in Indy. So well, that's a good point because. And I feel it's good actually because it forces you to be a professional investor. Like if you're a professional investor, they don't just invest in their backyard just because they can go walk to the property. You shouldn't be managing your property anyways. Your time is more valuable than that. So it forces you to be a professional investor to rely and manage the management team. So I think that's awesome that you are investing out of state in the cash flow market. So how did you find those deals and how did you fund those deals? And take us through the process of a BRRRR.
So finding the deals, I mean, there's like what's one of the benefits of going to Indy is that there's like deals everywhere. Like, like I know everybody in this call, everybody's looking for a flip in Hawaii, and like they're honestly like so hard to find in Hawaii. But you go to like a market like in Hawaii, I'll get maybe like 2 wholesale deals a month sent to me like from like a wholesaler in Hawaii, and that's like super rare too, But in India, I get like 5 deals a day through my inbox. It's like there's just so many more deals available, and just people are like just slinging them like left and right. And so one of the things about India is that there's just so much more availability, And so most of my deals came from wholesalers. I think like a couple of them came off the MLS, but it was MLS referred to me by like like another investor or something, or like a referral kind of thing. But basically, just wholesale deals and just analyzing numbers and kind of trying to make it work. So the financing part of that, I guess before the call ends, I kind of want to dive into that a little bit because the last or the third R of it is the refinance part of it. And over the course of like my short career, like I ran into like so many obstacles trying to refinance and with the conventional money. And I feel like I made I did make a lot of mistakes, and I think I might have pissed off a lot of lenders like over the process. But I picked up a lot of like tidbits and like kind of like things that like if I knew this ahead of time, it would have made my journey so much easier. So I kind of wanted to like share some of those ideas with people who are just kind of doing the BRRRRs or you just regular refinances and some things you may or may not know are that might be available to you as far as just like the conventional financing side. Before, I mean, like the last 10 minutes or so. But
Yeah.
I mean, so financing, it was like I had a little bit of cash saved. I went to like every bank in Hawaii and I opened up personal lines of credit. So like on the same day, I went to like 5 or 6 different banks and I just applied for personal lines of credit. They give you between like 15 to like 50 grand. So I got like 100 grand and just like lines of credit. I borrowed against my 401k to just take a loan. So I just have like cash to play with. And then from there, I probably had maybe about like I want to say 100 grand liquid for my savings, my 401k, and then like 100 grand in like lines of credit. And then like you can roll the money over and over, right? So the beauty of the BRRRR is you buy it, you rehab it, you rent it, and you refinance your money out, and then you can keep on doing it over and over again. And I know like typically there's using conventional financing, you have to wait 6 months seasoning, but I've also found a way to get around the 6 month seasoning so I can refinance out myself out faster too.
Okay, sorry, let me stop you right there because there's a lot of good information in that. And so explain why you went to apply for lines of credit at one time from multiple banks. Why did you do that?
So the thing is, when like a bank looks at your your profile, you have to answer a questionnaire. They're saying like you're basically, when you get a personal line of credit, they want to say what's your debt to income ratio, how much money do you make versus how much money do you have in debt, and what's your credit score. That's basically the things that it shows up, right? And so if I were to like take out like some lines of credit ahead of time, then apply for them later, now these lines of credits are going to show up in my credit report, and it's less likely for the bank to approve like my line of credit for the new one I'm trying to apply for. But I can honestly answer like other applications. I'm like, do you own have any other debt? Do you have any other lines of credit? And I'm just like, no, I don't, because I'm just applying for them all in the same day, you know? And so like, it was just like a strategy someone like shared with me. I was like, hey, that makes a lot of sense. And so just to maximize my borrowing potential as far as like what I have access to. And then the beauty of the lines of credit is that like, take as much lines of credit as you can, because until you actually are pulling out and using it, you're not paying any interest. So just having access to those funds, that's like even reserves, or I mean, even if you're not an investor, I mean, if a family emergency comes out, you say like, yeah, I have 100 grand that I can pull on if I need to. If I don't pull on that, I have like zero like payments or zero interest that I'm like, that's available to me, you know? So, and I think like the unsecured lines of credit in Hawaii are like, at the time the rates were like 4%, like introductory rate, and like 5%. I think they might have gone up a little bit now, but I mean, just like the rates of that you can borrow money at from Hawaii, the personal lines, and then probably, I'm not sure what the other parts of the country is like, is they're really good. So.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip, because if you're going to open up lines of credits, you might as well do it all at one time, so that, you know, and see what you can get. It's going to bring your credit score down. That's why. So you might as well do it all one time and try to build as much buying power as you can in one.
Actually, it doesn't bring your credit score down, but it's just you have a higher risk profile. So like it's I mean, the way credit works is like your debt utilization. So I think it actually might help your credit score if you have a lot of lines of credit, just because like your total debt utilization is less than percentage wise. Yeah. But then if you're applying for like another line of credit, like very soon, if a bank, they look at, it's not just your credit score, it's like your risk profile in addition to it. So if you have like, if you like make a huge purchase or a lot of transactions like recently, then the bank's like, hey, this is like a little fishy. Now we might not want to lend to you as much, even though like your credit score might go up higher, but it's just the fact that like you're a higher risk, because like, hey, what is this guy trying to do? You know, like, why is he opening up all these lines of credit? Like, why do you open up 4 lines of credit in the last like month or something? Like, what's going on? Okay.
Well, did your credit score go down when you opened up all those new lines though?
So like it takes a small ding every time you do a hard pull on your credit report. So that's gonna drop it slightly. But then as far as like my credit score, it was like unaffected, or yeah, it wasn't really changed, just because it's like opening up a credit card where like there's a bunch of different things that affect your credit, right? There's like your percentage of utilization, your history of payments, the age of your credit. And so like my age of my credit went down because I have all these new lines, but now my debt utilization is like way lower. But then it was low to begin with, so then like that didn't really affect me too much, you know. So
yeah, perfect. Okay. Sorry, there's another thing that you went over, and I can't recall what that was. So I think you were talking about the strategies when you go to refi, right? But you want to talk about that later. You want to do that you talk about
I
your.
mean, I don't want to like go over the call too long, so maybe we'll just deep dive into like my last BRRR, and then like well after that I'll go over the quick maybe a couple questions, and then maybe I'll go over like some of like the tips for like the refinance part of it.
Perfect. Do you need controls?
Hey, Daniel, can you walk through for people that aren't used to out-of-state investing? How did you contact those wholesalers? And then how are you building the contracting team to make sure that the work is done correctly? How are you watching all that? You get security cameras, or you get the mafia hired to walk by your properties? You know, how are you managing all that from a distance?
Sure. So I mean, the one thing is that wholesalers want as much eyes on their property as possible. So you don't really have to ask to be on a wholesaler's list. Like they want you on their list no matter what, you know. They just don't want people who are going to waste their time, basically. So first thing I did was I just like Google like wholesalers in Indianapolis, and every single hit I could find, like the first like 15 Google, I just emailed them and say, hey, can you put me on your wholesale list? And then like the Facebook groups and Bigger Pockets, I'm just trying to get as much like on much lists, as much email sent to me like every day as possible. And that's basically like honestly, the most time consuming part of the investing process for me was just analyzing deals. I probably spend like 3 hours a day just analyzing just deals and deals and deals, and just trying to like, I mean, find like good ones, you know. And so, I mean, but just like, so super easy to get your deal flow, especially in a place like Indy. Hawaii is like a different market, but in Indy, it's super easy to get deal flow. And then as far as like managing the project out of state, I did run into some problems with my first project with just trying to manage my contractor. It's such a hard thing to do from far away. So I talked to another investor there who referred me to a project manager. So I actually pay a project manager 10% over the GC, the rehab cost. So if my rehab is like 30 grand, I pay this guy 3 grand and he manages my project for me. And so this does a lot of things where like I have a dedicated person who's like looking out for my best interests. Whereas like the GC is not gonna take pictures of his shoddy work or tell you if he's not on the site or whatever, but I have my project manager and he doesn't do a whole lot. He just does make sure that the GC is working, checks their work, and then kind of is like the ahu on the ground for me, you know? So like, I don't have to yell at them or something. Just like, he can just be like, oh, Daniel said this, you know, or like whatever kinds of things. And just trying to kind of come check back with me. He's like, you know, hey, like the kitchen layout is kind of funky. What do you think about this? I mean, so he's not a completely inexperienced, but then he's just like a guy who just is like my second set of eyes to just really help me build that trust factor, you know? And so it's like a mutual beneficial relationship because like he's getting maybe like 3 grand for like 2 months. So just pop in here and there, like maybe like 3 or 4 times a week and make sure things are going on. So like, it's a good, and I mean, return for his time for him. But for me, it's like, it's invaluable just to have like, to pay the extra like 3 grand for my project too. And it's just, I run that in my numbers, you know? And so it's just part of the rehab budget where it's like, okay, like I know like if the rehab is 30, it's actually 33 because I'm going to pay this guy to kind of make sure that the guys basically they're showing up to work and they're just doing like at least decent work, you know. That's kind of like how I manage my projects.
That's awesome.
Awesome. So, okay, tell us about your, you should have controls now, Daniel. Thank you, Layla, for sending that over.
Wait, I gotta plug in my computer. My computer's out. Give me like a couple seconds.
Okay. Okay, so in the chat, there looks like there's some questions too that we can go over. I don't want to miss some of these. Wow, there's a lot of questions. Okay, maybe we'll tackle this in the Q&A when Daniel's ready. There's some good questions.
This is good information, actually.
Yeah. You guys might want to stick around to the end because Daniel's got some great tips. Like we had a meeting and I had to stop him like, would you like to come on Friday, please, to talk about this? Because I think everyone would benefit from this information. And, you know, once we get there, we can tackle some of your guys' questions. So go ahead, Daniel. I think you got control.
When I just did show my deal analysis, I guess.
Yep.
So can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so just a real quick, I mean, this is like the last BRRRR that we did in Indy, and just kind of give you like an overview of maybe my thought process. And so this project actually took a little longer than 6 months because like I had like long story short with some lending issues and stuff, but basically I purchased it at 52,000. It was from a wholesaler. The rehab was 40 grand, or 44 grand. And then like my project management fee for my project management guy was 4 grand. So the whole cash purchase that that needed for the project was 100 grand, and miraculously, like we stuck to the budget of the rehab, and because I did a couple other rehabs with this guy like prior, like I had like a relationship with the contractor, so a couple like minor things came up, some like dry rot stuff, whatever, but he threw it in for free for me, and so like that was really nice of him. And so this is like a decent, like it's not like super cheap labor, it's like it's like fair labor for like an investor kind of thing, and so that's part of the thing that he
Okay,
did.
hold on. Let me just answer or Daniel, can you answer Matthew's question? What is a wholesaler?
Okay, so a wholesaler is somebody who, like, their one job is they just deal source or deal find. So they'll drive for dollars, they'll do direct mails, internet marketing, text blasts, banner signs, and then they'll lock up a contract at a certain price, and then they'll shop it around to like investors like us and say like, hey, for a fee, do you want to buy this property at this price? And so like this wholesaler, I think this guy, he locked this property up for like pretty cheap. I want to say it was like 28 grand or something ridiculous like that. But then like he was like, hey, do you want to buy it? And he just shops the property out to like the list. And this actually one is like, when I was doing my analysis, I was like, this was such a good deal. Like at this 52 that I was like, I jumped on it right away. I was like, hey, like I want to, like, when I sign a contract, I want to do it. Even before I went to to look at the rehab, just from the numbers, like I assumed that 50 grand rehab from the budget from the pictures. And then I was like, hey, if the 50 grand rehab, this would be like a really good deal. And so I was just running from my ARV is what I did. And so usually what I do is once I find like a deal, I have my project manager, and he'll bring my GC along with him, and he'll walk their property and they'll actually like bid out the work. So like before I make the purchase, I actually have like a real like legit scope of work for me to kind of like play with my numbers to see how much of the property is gonna take to rehab. And I pay my guy $100 a property to walk because I don't want to waste his time. I value his time, and also like I'm not gonna just send him to like every single property. It's only after I kind of like analyze it myself it made sense. And just from like pictures, you can kind of get a feel for the rehab, but then like you don't know for sure like if things are hidden or whatever's kind of going on. You know, and just to know like this is indie prices, and so for 45 grand you can get a lot done. It's probably equal to like 150 grand in Hawaii, honestly.
Wow, that's crazy. That's why it's a cash flow market, right? So, okay, so yeah, a wholesaler basically, like Daniel said, is they basically sell contracts, like they're flipping paper. So they get properties under contract at deep discounts, and they sell the contract to someone like a buyer like Daniel, who will actually purchase it and fix it up and then do whatever he wants with the property. So Daniel, go ahead and I didn't mean to cut you off, sorry about that, but why don't you talk more about the deal? So you bought it for 52, yeah, rehabbed for 44, yeah, you're all in for about 100. And how did you finance that?
So this one, this was like financed with my own money, but then I actually had a private lender come in after the fact and then refinance me out. So like the way it works is I buy it for cash, and then like 52 whatever, and then I have another guy who comes in and he's like, hey, do you want, I found like a private lender after the fact, and I said like, hey, like this property is free and clear, here's an investment opportunity, do you want to like do you want to like lend money to me, etc., like at a rate like 10%? And then he's like, yeah, sure, but I want to be like secure, right? And so like I'll put him in first position in the property, and then like so he'll have a mortgage on the property, but then I have like that, I can pull the equity out of the property to do like my next deal, and then not have to like wait until the refinance is finished. And then once the refinance finishes, then he'll get paid out his whatever sum that he lent to me, and then like I can keep on rolling over, and that's how I can do like the more deals faster to like kind of like speed up the time frame, you know. And then the beauty of it is that I'm not relying on him to fund it initially, because like what if he doesn't come through, or what if like there's some kind of hold up, because he needed like most of these purchases, because of like 50 grand, like you got to close in a week, like that's like the week to like 2 weeks is kind of like the typical time frame. So it has to be like kind of like liquid cash in your bank account, you know. So
yeah,
so that's how like I funded it. And then let's see, then so the property appraised for 165, and then typically you go to a bank and you say like, hey, can I take on a mortgage on a property? If it's a 30-year conventional loan, typically on like the bank will lend you 75% of what it's worth. So they sent their appraiser, it appraised at 165. They cashed out 123, paid back my private lender. And usually when you do a mortgage, like the bank is going to take like a little bit of fees for like just to do the refinance. So then that's kind of like money that's kind of like bleeding from your pocket too. And so when I think of like these deals, I kind of think of it as like, I think like Bigger Pockets, they had a good analogy of, it's like a bucket of water. So the better deal you find, the bigger your bucket of water. But then all little mistakes like the rehab or like lender fees or realtor fees or whatever, this slowly like small little leaks that are going to bleed out some of like your equity or your profit. And so you want to try and like minimize the amount of like little like leakage that you can have. But if you start off with no water, like there's no equity in the deal, you have nothing to bleed anyway, you know? And so that's kind of like a good analogy that I heard one time. And so after the cash out refinance, we got like 19 grand in cash. And the beauty about this 19 grand is like, it's tax free, because when it's not actually like profit, you're just taking out a loan against your property. So then like you're getting like the 19 grand without any kind of like tax implications.
No capital gains on that, right? So that's awesome. Like that's why the BRRRR strategy is so powerful if you can find great deals. Was the appraised value at 165, was that your target ARV or was that higher or lower than you thought?
You know, so like I thought like my honest opinion of the property at the time I bought it was like, I think like it's 170. I feel like it could go easy to 250. Like this is one of those rare markets in Indy where like it's to the right of me, I've got like $300,000 to $500,000 houses. You cross 2 streets over and then like through this lake, and then there's like the 50 grand houses over here. And so like this kind of like tricky market where you kind of have to like know like, okay, like what side of the street is this thing on? But I feel like the appreciation is bleeding over from the $500,000 market over here. And so I feel like, I mean, just running my comps, my things, I feel like 170 was very reasonable. 200 is like very possible too. But I mean, like I'm happy. I mean, if it appraised for like 140, I would have been happy, you know, as far as like just my own personal numbers.
So. Got it.
Yeah. Awesome, Daniel.
So it rents for $1,200, and then my PITI, my mortgage after property tax insurance, is $780. I pay my property manager about $120, and then I put a little bit aside for maintenance. Some people can put aside higher, some people can put aside less. I mean, this might be low, this might be high compared to what you're thinking. It's probably a little low actually, as far as just in general, as far as just like your cash reserves. But if you take that into account, then like after everything is said and done, a cash flow like $150 a month, which is not like awesome, but I mean, it's something little. But like one of the things I found, I think the beauty about the BRRRR strategy is that, like, as opposed to if I was to try and flip this property, is that I get to keep all of my equity or all of my my net worth, you know. So like when I calculate these things, if I were to flip it, I have to pay realtor fees and like a little bit of whatever things. I'll make like maybe say like 55 grand, but half of that goes to like active income taxes, right? You gotta pay self-employment tax, and then like whatever your rate is at your W-2 plus your income and investment. So I probably would take home about 28 grand in cash. So my net worth would probably rise about to like 28 grand more at the end of the day. But in this one, because I kept it, my net worth is a combination of cash and equity in the property. My total net worth increase from the BRRRR is actually 61 grand versus like the 28 grand if I were to flip it. And then the bonus about this is that after the fact, let's say like my cash flow is $150 a month. There's somebody who's paying down my mortgage from me every month, right? So I have like a $123,000 mortgage. After 30 years, it's going to be zero. So if you just divide that by 30, it comes out to about $44,000 a month. Of course, it's amortized. So in the beginning, you're paying on less. At the end, you're paying on more. But let's say I hold it for 30 years. I'm averaging going to be paying on my loan at $4 grand a month. And then if it appreciates, like usually like appreciation can go higher or lower. I mean, Hawaii is like 10%. The Midwest is probably like 1%. It's like, it really matters. Like, it's hard to say. I mean, typically on average, it'll be like 3% to follow inflation. But like that's really subjective, you know, or but I mean, like, I think this is appreciating area. So like, I honestly think this thing is going to appreciate like 5 to 7%, but that's just speculation, you know. But let's say it appreciates at 3%, then my quote unquote net worth, when you add up the cash flow, the loan paid out and depreciation, every year my net worth goes up by 10 grand. And this is like the beauty about rental properties is like there's like tax savings in here too, where like I think you can take depreciation, your mortgage interest, etc. And so like this is like money that's basically kept in your pocket at the end of the day. And I don't do anything to deserve this 10 grand appreciation. And just by owning this property, every year my net worth goes up by 10 grand with like nothing to do with it on my part, you know. So to me, that's kind of like the beauty of the BRRRR strategy is like you.
And what about what about the vacancy factor?
Yeah, so that's that's something that you have to factor in too. Like that's not in my pro forma over here too. It's just vacancy / maintenance is all rolled up in this 150, and so it's probably a little low. So maybe like it might be like, let's say 250. Let's say my cash flow is at 0 or like $50 a month or something. And
so for example, and this is just a generic question, is sometimes people say, hey, investing in say Kansas City or the Midwest is a little risky because the vacancy factor, you get somebody who doesn't want to pay. So if your annual cash flow is 1,800 and your property sits empty 1 month and you don't make 1,200, then suddenly your annual cash flow drops to 600. Yeah.
That's a very, very good point. And you know, so like there's like pros and cons to like the so like in my particular market, $1,200 is like a little bit more on the pricey end. And so like it's like in Hawaii it's like super cheap, but in India you have properties for like $500 a month or $600 a month. And so as a single family at $1,200, it's a little bit more in the higher end price. And then like if my property is in good shape, so then like I theoretically, hopefully in the first like 5 to 7 years, I won't have a lot of like maintenance issues because it's newly rehabbed. And then as long as I keep the property in like good condition, and like the renters in general are going to be more of like the hopefully taking better care of your property renters, because the pool is like for like maybe the little higher income rent pool. And then like my I guess gamble factor of the vacancy, but that's a very good point. So if I go vacant for 2 months, that's like negative cash flow for the year. And so it's my cash flow in this particular example is honestly more of like a defensive thing, where like if I just break even, it's like a win for me because of like the other bonus and benefits that I kind of get as far as like my net worth rising slowly and then my initial net worth that I get to keep.
Well, you already took profits out too, right? So like, yeah. The thing is, everything else is icing on the cake. I mean, unless you sit for like 12 months without a tenant, then you're going to start to get pinched, but you can't lose already. You're already 19,000 plus in profit. So, but yeah, like the best part about this strategy is, scroll down a little bit, Daniel, to your cash on cash. Explain why that's infinite.
So the reason why the cash on cash is infinite, and then like the percentages are really like a tricky number because you can really play with this, but at the end of the day, I have like none of my money in equity in this property. And so if I were to buy this property as like a turnkey, I'd put down, let's say like 20% of the 165, and I have like maybe like, I don't know, what is that, like 30 grand of my cash stuck in equity in the property that is now like stuck there. And so then you take your cash flow, average cash flow, like 1,800 divided by 30 grand. And that's kind of like your percent of your cash and cash in the deal. But because I was able to refinance out all my money plus a little bit more, now my quote unquote cash and cash is infinite because there's none of my money that's kind of stuck inside of this deal. And so it's just like a little bit faster to expand like your net worth or to grow your rental portfolio versus just like saving up 30 grand in my W-2, then buying one, wait another 2 years, save up 30 grand, then buy one, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, so there's a lot of questions for you, by the way, in the chat that we can address soon.
I wanted to get to the refinance part. So I mean, this is kind of like it's a quick thing, but just my general like plan right now. Of course, it's gonna change in the future. Is like if I can just get all my net worth up to like 2 million, it's basically like I can 1031 these bad boys into a DST or Delaware State Trust, and then like at the Delaware State Trust, there's basically like these funds that you can actually 1031 and transfer your equity into. Then and they'll pay like a 5% annual return. So at a 5% annual return with a 2 million worth of net worth, basically that comes out to like about 10 grand a month or 100 grand a year, et cetera. So I mean, like it's if I can just, I mean, that's my initial plan right now. I think it might change in the future, 1031 to some multifamily or do commercial deals or whatever the thing is. But like, that's kind of like my backup strategy where like, if I can just consistently grow my net worth up, then like eventually I can like transfer this equity with like very little like bleeding into like a DST or into like another higher performing like multifamily or higher cash equity.
To do that, you're talking about you have to sell the assets though, right?
Yeah.
But then you take the profits, you 1031 into a DST, which I want to get somebody to talk about DST on here too. That's a very powerful strategy. So I love that game plan. So your game plan is to do these BRRRRs, but not just hold them and cash flow. You want to consolidate, so sell, consolidate the profits, put it in the DST account, trust or tax free, and then maybe do some more BRRRRs and do it again, right?
Like, I mean, I would do that for, I mean, that's just like my passive income like goal, right? So like everybody's like wants to get like 10 grand a month passive, and this is like, I feel like in 5 years, like if you do like 6 of these a year, and some of the in Hawaii you can generate a lot more net worth than this. But I'm just saying like there's a very really realistic goal to like in a few years to be able to generate enough passive income where okay, now I can just have play money and I can do whatever I want as far as, and that was like the original reason why I got into real estate. Although now it's like so much fun that I'm like, hey, like even if I have passive, I'm still gonna probably do it because it's just fun to do and like hang out with guys like you and Kikoa, and Alex. So
awesome, man. Okay, well, I'll let you take it away. Let's talk about the takeout or the financing when you refinance, because that's the tricky part, right? So initially you have to purchase it with your own cash. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, like just for simplicity's sake, let's say you purchase it with your own cash, and then like at the end of the deal, you got to refinance out your property. And there's kind of 2 ways you can do the refinance. One is you can go commercial, where it's just based on the asset itself, or you can go to the conventional route, which is backed by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And this is where you're going to get the best deals and the best long-term financing. And so like the complicated part about the conventional is that it's a lot harder to qualify on like, because it's they look at everything, every part of your life basically, and say like, hey, is this guy gonna like be able to make the payments? And so when I first started, like I don't have like my income was good for my W-2, but then there's a lot of other things I didn't know what you didn't know, So like for instance, in a cash out, you cannot you need like cash reserve. So there's 3 things that a lender is going to look at when they're doing a refinance. One is your debt to income ratio. How much money do you pull in versus how many debts do you have going out? What's your credit score? And then you have to have cash reserves for the property and all the other properties that you have. And so even though like, let's say like for this property, this is my one property, I'm going to pull out 125 grand. I can't use any of that 125 grand as my cash reserves. So for whatever reason, I have to have separate cash reserves set on the side in order to do the refinance on this property. And so that's kind of like a little tricky part that people may or may not realize. And then the more properties you own, the higher cash reserves that you have to have like available. So if you have like 1, 2, 3 properties, they take 2% of all the mortgages you own, and you have to have that in cash reserves in addition to like 6 to 12 months of your subject property. If you have like 4 to 5, now that number goes to 4%. If you have 7, 8, or 9 properties, they're going to take all your mortgages together, add that whole sum, and you have to have a 6% cash reserve balance in your bank account in order to just do the refinance on the new subject property that you're taking out. And so that cash reserve is kind of like a big sticking point as far as like making sure that you have like seasoned cash reserve funds available just to get for your refinance to happen. And then in the beginning,
Hey Daniel, one of my lender that just did a refi on the last BRRRR I did is telling me that she only needs, I'm looking at another BRRRR right now too, and I asked her like 10 times. I'm like, no, you're wrong. Like, check again. She keeps saying, we only need your reserves on the property you're purchasing now, which I've always, every other bank I've worked with, same thing what you just said, is they want reserves on all of them.
Conventional?
So I'm still kind of confirming this, but yeah.
I mean,
so they do their in-house loans, but they also broker loans out.
I want to say that doesn't meet the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac guidelines. You can go online, just Google it, and
yeah. I'm sure it's probably portfolio. I'm guessing because Fannie and Freddie, I know you.
So just real quick, I mean, just to kind of tell you guys like a real brief like history of how like loans work is basically these lenders come in and they'll make a loan with you, and then if they meet these guidelines that these 2 government-backed agencies have, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, if it meets these guidelines, they can sell that loan to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac for like whatever on the secondary market. If it doesn't meet those requirements, they either have to keep it themselves or sell it to like another investor or somebody else who's not going to be as stringent or stickler to those guidelines. But I mean, like maybe, I mean, if you get more information on that, Greg, like let me know, because that's very, very, I mean, all the lenders I've talked to, it's always like the cash reserve has kind of been like a sticking point. So.
Yeah, it's always a big obstacle, especially if you're getting started in your first couple properties and you're like, okay, now I got to have like 20 grand sitting in the bank that I'm not, just sitting there.
So
the one thing that personally I use, you can also count your 401k, but you know, like I think it's 70% or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, I don't know. I still have to verify this, but she keeps saying, yeah, this is for real. I'm like, I don't know. I've never heard of that. But
I mean, like, let's check back with us, because like if that's the case, we all want to use that same lender, you know. So.
yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying.
We all want
I'll
that
tell you guys
lender,
next
Greg.
week. Yeah, I'll tell you next week if it's for real.
But
Well-
so another thing is like, so there's a way to, you can kind of hack this where like, so you cannot use borrowed funds for your cash reserves. But if you have two bank statements showing your cash reserves, like in the beginning of the the two bank statements, the lender doesn't care where it came from. It can be like drug money, it can be borrowed money from your grandma, it can be lines of credit. So you cannot use personal lines of credit as cash reserves. But if you just take it out, pay the interest for 2 months and sit it in your bank account, now if you did a little planning ahead when you're gonna do your refinance, if you can show two bank statements of your cash reserves, now these are valid sources of funds that the lender can use. And so 401k 50%, 70%, and then just two bank statements. So like, but you want to underwrite yourself to calculate how much you're gonna need, so that you can just have the money sitting in the bank account. So like when I was doing these deals, I just kind of calculated how much I was gonna need for my next few deals, and I just had like a bank account that was just sitting with cash, and then like I still pull my lines and use all my lines for my other deals, but I just had this bank account of just reserves of this cash, just so I could qualify for the lender like refinancing, you know. And so another thing you want to take into account is that like when you're giving them your bank statements, they're gonna kind of analyze and look at every little kind of like big transaction that comes in and out of that bank statement. So if you can keep these bank statements as clean as possible, that's gonna just make your life like so much easier like in the long run. So what I do is I just open up like 10 bank accounts that are like all different banks, and I try to silo all my money like as much as possible. And so if there's no money that's coming inside and out of it, then like you can just give the bank statement to the lender, and the lender's okay, this makes sense. But now you got like 100 grand from a private lender coming in, 50 grand goes up to this project, 25 grand for a rehab. They're like, oh, what is this? And now they start to do like a deep dive into this thing, and it opens up a web to like this other bank account, to this other bank account. And then now like your whole like cost of like just like all these different webs of like your borrowed money, your lines of credit, etc., all kind of like on the table. The lender's like, okay, this is like too risky for us. We don't want to have to like deal with this kind of like this lender. So that's like another kind of like idea as far as like you know what I mean, just silo all your bank accounts and keep them as much separate as possible.
That's a great point. Yeah, because you don't want the underwriters start digging in. Like, you don't want to give them any reason to start to dig in more than they need to, right? And if they see a lot of like complicated stuff, it's a red flag, you know, to them to dive in deeper. So I like that strategy. Talk about the seasoning, the 6-month seasoning.
So,
like some people don't know what that means. That's why.
So for seasoning, like when you're doing the BRRRR strategy, you purchase it. I'm purchasing this thing at like 50 grand. But I want to take out 123 grand. So from a lender standpoint, they're like, why am I going to give you 120 grand when you only put in 50 grand to this? You know, and like, that's a very risky proposition. And I think back in the day, they just let people do that. Whatever it appraised at, they had like your buddy appraise it or whatever. And you can just basically pull like cash, like out of like these houses. And so what they added to the guidelines now is that to make the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac feel safe is, you have to wait 6 months of owning the property before you can use the appraised value as opposed to the purchase price value. So you can refinance out the purchase 75% of the purchase price at any time. So I can take out 75% of the 50 grand like anytime, but then I can't take out that 125 of the 165 value until 6 months has passed of owning that property. So that's kind of like even if the rehab only takes a month and the property is not worth 165, I've got to wait 6 months before the lender will let me refinance out the 125 that the new property values were. And so that's kind of like a hang up that a lot of investors come in across as far as just like trying to get conventional financing. There's a creative strategy of a rate and term refinance to get around that. I mean, I don't know I think that might take a little too long to explain that part of it, but if you want to hit me up later, or there's some like articles in Bigger Pockets that they kind of like go over that strategy as far as like.
Are you referring to delayed financing?
So there's two. There's delayed financing and there's rate and term refi. So the delayed financing is when you escrow in your rehab costs into like your on escrow when you purchase a property. And some lenders will allow that, some lenders won't. So you gotta kind of like shop around. I think it's Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac approved, but a lot of lenders I talk to, they don't allow that. But the rate and term refi is basically you get your buddy, your brother, your own LLC to slap a mortgage on top of that property for the amount you want to refinance out. and a lender will say like, hey, I'm not gonna give you Daniel cash, but I will give your lender, I'll pay your lender off. So then at any point after like the purchase of property, you can throw a mortgage on it after the fact. And then another lender like Wells Fargo or whatever kind of Bank of Hawaii, they'll refinance out to your lender. And your lender can be your own LLC, which is the kind of crazy part. But a rate and term refi, there's no restrictions on timing for a rate and term refi. So that's kind of like the trick to get around the 6 month seasoning.
But you cannot get you can't tap into the equity. You can only get your investment back out.
No, you can tap
right?
So for instance, like if for this property 50 grand, I'm gonna say like, hey, I think the rehab and like the thing is gonna cost me 100 grand or so. I'll get my brother or my LLC to put a mortgage on the property for 123,000. I'll go immediately to like Bank of Hawaii and say like, hey, can I refinance this property out? This mortgage, this lender that has 123 grand mortgage lien on my property. The bank will say, hey, let's check how much your property is worth. It appraises at 165. They say, okay, well, at max we'll give you back 165. We'll let you refinance out 123, but not like, we can't give you any money personally, but we can give like your LLC, or we can give like your another entity the money. So like if let's say it appraises at like 300,000, and I could qualify for like 250 or whatever, the bank will only refinance out the lender amount. So there's kind of a game you have to play where you want to make the payoff amount exactly match what your 75% of your ARV is, you know what I mean? So there's a little trick to it if you're using the LLC kind of thing. It's a little bit more complex, but I mean, that basic idea is that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac guidelines lets you refinance out an existing lender immediately versus having to wait the 6 months for a cash out.
Okay, one last question. So sorry for taking you hostage, but do you know anything about doing a delayed finance in Hawaii? Because we don't have the HUD statement anymore in Hawaii.
I've only encountered it in Indy, and after talking to the lenders who I liked, they don't do delayed financing. There's another guy who I referred to who does. But the rate into refi is a way better strategy because you get better rates. I mean, it does everything the delay financing does, but you can do it after the fact, right? So if you don't escrow out the right amount in the front end of the delay financing, then you kind of screw yourself. The delayed financing, you can throw the mortgage on like 2 months after the fact, whatever you think your ARV is going to be. And then the rate and term, you get better rates. So like if you're at 4% for a cash out, you get like a 3.7 for like a rate and term, and you can go up to 85% LTV for a rate and term refi. So not all banks will give you the 85%, but I know Wells Fargo gives you the 85% as far as the rate and term refi. So I mean, the Fannie Mae Freddie Mac guidelines is 85% on single family, not multifamily, right? But then like depends on your lender, because your lender can add on more, be more stringent than what Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac does. So most lenders will only do 75% LTV as far as like the thing, but there's a few like Wells Fargo, I think there's some others that will do the 85%, but only on a rate into refi. A cash out, you can be limited to 75%. So.
Thank you.
Yeah. And like, hit me up later, Greg. There's some like nuances if you do it with your LLC where I can help you walk through the process and some timing things too. So yeah. But,
right on. Thanks.
Sure. Yeah. A couple more like, quick ninja tips before like I answer questions is another thing people run into as a real estate investors is that when you do your tax returns, you always want to take as much deductions as possible and like make yourself look like a negative thing because you don't want to pay Uncle Sam taxes, right? But when you're trying to qualify for these loans, they're like, the bank's like, hey, you lost money the last 2 years, like you don't have any income, like I can't qualify you for a loan. So what my CPA told me was that what you can do is like, don't take the deductions in your tax return and just show a strong income asset as possible, pay your taxes for that year. You can go back 3 years and amend your tax return. So what you do is you show a strong tax return, you refinance that with the lender, do whatever you can, show strong 2 years. 3 years later, you can go back and amend your tax return and take, oh, I didn't know I could take this deduction. And then you can actually get the deductions after the fact for your tax returns. But if you're just trying to qualify for the conventional financing immediately, you need to kind of like plan ahead and say like, I need to have some strong W-2s in order to make your life easier for your debt to income ratio, you know,
So how do you do that to stop it from hurting you on the next loan? Do you always just do it on the 3rd year back so that, because they're always just looking at the last 2 returns?
So always look at your last 2 W-2s. If your rental properties are positive cash flow, and by positive cash flow I mean like 75% of the gross minus all your expenses, it actually is actually added to your income. So there's like your debt and your income, and your debt, right? So it's not like the mortgage and the rental things are added here and the percentage is taken on the total. The rentals are separate. They take like 75% and then they minus your whatever, your PITI, etc. And then that minus or addition, they add that to your existing, your W2/business debt to income ratio. And so like if you do that, like as long as your rental incomes are positive, then it's only going to increase like your debt to income ratio, you know. So and you want 2 years. Typically, I mean, like lender to lender specific as far as what they're going to ask for. Some people ask for like 3 bank statements back. Some people ask for 3 years. Some people are saying like 1 year and like what your proposed cash flow is this year. I mean, I think that's like a lender specific thing, but typically it's 2 years tax returns that you want to show like a strong income.
That's brilliant, Daniel. Wherever your CPA is, that's brilliant. That's awesome. Hey, so Daniel, take a look at some of the questions in the chat real quick and see. We're at 15 after the hour now, so there's a couple of questions that are pretty solid in here.
You want to just ask me which ones like you think wanna?
Let's see.
Hey, Fikoa.
Hi.
One thing I wanted to mention is, so I heard Daniel basically give the same presentation about 6 months ago, and I was blown away. Like I think a lot of people are. And so if you've, haven't started investing yet or haven't invested out of state or never done a BRRR deal, I just did my first BRRR deal in Indy this past month. So big props to Daniel. He's helped me along the way. He's been an excellent resource. I know there's a few guys on this call who also invest in Indy. So if that's a market you guys anybody's interested in, there's plenty of people on this call who'd be happy to help out. So thanks again, Daniel.
Thank you, John. It's like, I'm excited for you, man. Like that's awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. Hey, Daniel, would you mind posting that deal analysis you did on the Facebook page?
Yeah, sure.
To allow people to kind of get you to what you do there? That's awesome. And then Daniel, what's your best email address if you'd like everybody to stalk you? To contact you.
Daniel.kong@gmail. So.
Daniel.kong@gmail.
Or if you're on the Facebook group, you can just hit me up on the Facebook too. I mean, whatever is easier. So.
That's awesome. Let's see. Anybody got questions you want to just shout out real quick? There's a whole bunch of questions here on the sides.
I got more ninja tips, but I'll just save them for another time. So.
Those are awesome ninja tips. That's amazing. Is your CPA in Hawaii?
Yeah, Gordon Gates, if anybody wants to hit him up. So he's a big Mark Kohler fan. I'm not sure if you guys know Mark Kohler. He's a very creative CPA, and so so he's a Mark Kohler disciple.
If you don't have like solid W-2 income yet, how does the commercial refinance look like kind of on a BRRR? If say, for example, you're like self-employed and, do you have any advice there?
So if you have like no income, you just try to find like just go commercial only, and just it'll be on a DSCR, yeah. So it's your debt service coverage ratio. And so if you go conventional loan today, you're looking at maybe like 3.5 to 4.5% on the conventional side. If you go just asset-based lending, then you're gonna have to go between like 5.5 to 6.5% as far as like your interest rates. And then the terms, I mean, there might be higher points, et cetera, depending on your lender. But then the tricky part is that it has to cash flow really well for it, because usually I think the typical DSCR is like 1.25. So you take your income of the rental property, and the max that you can refinance out would be, it's like the ratio of the income to the refi is like 1.25, I guess, basically. And so like a typical mediocre cash flow property, you're not going to be able to pull out 75%. So and also like a lot of times it's 70% is like the max LTV for these commercial things. So just the deal has to be better, or you're going to leave more equity inside of the deal when you do the commercial.
Hey Daniel, I'm going to read off some of these questions for you. Do you need, so Roshan is asking, do you need to buy the property 100% for the BRRR model, or can I put 5% down?
So you can do either way. The hard part is finding a deal where you can put in 5%. And so one of the reasons these wholesalers come to us is because they know we can close quickly, and we don't have to go for bank financing, and sometimes when you try to go for bank financing, the wholesaler is like, I'm not going to sell it to anybody who has to go through a bank and do the financing through it. And then a lot of times the houses are not in great shape. So they might not even qualify for bank financing anyway. So usually if you're gonna do 5%, it's gonna take you like right now in COVID, it's taking like 60 days to close on like a loan. Like typically it's like 30 to 45 days for you to close on like a conventional loan financing. And so you can do 5%. It's just harder to find a deal that makes sense when you gotta close quickly or the property won't appraise for the amount or like be like a valid place you can live.
Okay, here's a quick question from Sam. What language do you script in?
Everything, man. I mean, I do like .NET, I mean, C#, Java, JavaScript, I mean, Oracle. I mean, like, yeah, I've been doing software for a long time. So, oh, well, my scripting, I do my scripting in JavaScript. So, yeah.
Okay.
And a bunch of us had no idea what you just said, so that's awesome. We speak in English, sometimes in Pidgin, occasionally.
So Jim and Loretta's asking, how are you separating your profits from your 401k to avoid tax issues?
So the beauty, so for my 401k, I took a loan out of my 401k. So this is like another kind of like thing is where I'm not using a self-directed RA. I mean, it's self-directed 401k. I'm just taking a loan against it. So they'll let you take out 50% of your balance or 50 grand, whichever is less. And then when you have the loan, you pay back your loan to yourself, and you pay back interest to yourself, so which is kind of dumb, but it's basically you're just paying back, and so your loan balance goes up by your principal and your own interest. But basically, like you can take out a loan against your 401k. I think you have like 5 years to pay it back, and then so you just have that cash immediately to play with, and you slowly pay it back your monthly payments back to your 401k. And it's like it's tax free, right? Because it's a loan to yourself. And then COVID, they deferred all the payments for the 401k loan, so I'm not paying making any payments at least till the end of the year.
Oh,
so.
that's nice.
Nice. Okay.
Oh, you get Pake special ninja strategies all over the place, yeah, bro. That's awesome.
Bro, watch it with the Pake.
Hey, I like being a Pake. I'm aspiring to be a Pake, but Daniel wins, man.
Keiko is Chinese, so he gets he speaks fluent Chinese. People didn't know that. People don't know that you speak fluent Chinese.
Barely, but yeah, sure.
Okay, let me see what else we got here. This is great info, Daniel. Thank you so much. Okay, Tay's asking, when you connect with wholesalers, do you give them the specifics and your exit strategies? Or do you just ask to be on their buyers list? Send them whatever you got.
For me, I just ask to be on their buyers list. I mean, it's very time consuming because you're looking to do so many deals every day. And but I mean, the more you do it, the more you kind of like quick. It's like a funnel, right? So like if it meets at a glance, a lot of times I'm like, no, it's like so quick. But then like certain things like, okay, let me dive a little bit deeper into this one, etc. And so. And then for me, like I might be a big time waster, but I just I take whatever deals I can find and just kind of like sourcing them. But it is very, very time consuming.
So Lohi has a question. It's actually a good question. So basically, have you the property that you just shown? Did you lay foot on that thing at all?
So I
haven't touched that property at all.
Yeah. So I started my kind of journey like out of state, and then. It was honestly like very scary because like the first property I bought, I was gonna like wire like 70 grand to like this bank account like in this title. I was like, how do I know this is not a fake like website or whatever? Once the one money's gone, I'm screwed. And so I called I did just like separate calls to all the loan processors or the title officers, make sure is this like legit, and everything. But so my first two properties, I just did like hands off, just from referrals, the internet, whatever and stuff, and then. After the first two, I went on a tour with this local guy. His name Paul Xavier, and he does a indie buying tour. And so I went up with him to on his buying tour. And the first 2 days before the tour, I went up 2 days earlier, and I went to like a tour run. I seriously drove like every single street in Indianapolis. Like I just got my map and I just marked on things. I just drove every single street up and down just to get a feel for like the neighborhoods and see like what the life is like in in the different things. And some of them were kind of scary, like a little bit. I mean, depending on what your definition of scary is, but just to kind of do some like market analysis, but then that's like the only time I've ever been to Indy. After that, then I haven't like been to Indy back since. So.
You haven't been back to Indy? Yeah. That's so awesome. So you're building your wealth and creating, on your way to financial freedom.
It feels like fake. It's just like on my computer and like on a piece of paper. It's like it doesn't even feel real. It's just like you just kind of play a video game, you know. It's like, oh, let's try to buy this one. Let's see what happens.
That's awesome.
The screen, right? You know, it's just like transactions. You just like send money here, and like, let's try to like kind of strategize, whatever.
Well, the BRRR strategy, right? That's such a powerful strategy because, like, take your deal for example. You got the best of both worlds. Like, you got to squeeze out profits, about 19,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
You still own the asset, and the mortgage is being paid down. You're cash flowing actually. So not only did you take profits, but you're cash flowing. You can, write off the depreciation for taxes. You don't pay taxes on that 19,000 that you got back.
So that there's, so like you can be like super aggressive and like put your rehab into your your taxes immediately. But then of course for me, I don't want to do that because I don't want to get audited, and then also I don't want to like I want to show strong income, yeah. So, but like that 40 grand, I can depreciate that as capital asset, like it's a capital expenditure. So that's slowly going to be depreciated on my tax return over the next, I don't know how many years. And then the mortgage interest you pay, and then like your depreciation on the property. And so like, yeah, all these things up. And then I can also take like personal, like a trip to India is like the tax deductible. Basically, these things on paper are like huge negative cash flow. They probably might just be exercised. Like on paper, you can take a loss, and you can apply that to your your W-2 to a certain extent too. Depending on, there's some like restriction on your income, etc. But like, so.
Right. So a deal like this, you got to take some equity, you're riding cash flow, and hopefully appreciating in value, right, over the years. So that's awesome. I love that strategy. I think that's all the questions that we had in the chat. Well, I have a question. Like, so you're doing fix and flip deals in Hawaii as well, right? So what do you say is the biggest difference from renovating a property to get it rent ready for renters and cash flow, and getting it and flipping a house to take out equity and selling it to a new owner? What is there a difference that you've noticed?
So I'm probably like the wrong guy to ask for this question, because I basically I got really lucky in Hawaii where my deals, they actually turned out they're gonna be BRRRRs. So I'm not doing like the high end like fixtures that I might do, or as good a rehab as always if in a flip. But at the same time, there's like honestly like in Hawaii anyway, I don't know and how it breaks down other places, like the biggest expense is labor. So like really like your actual cost of materials is like maybe like 25%, even 10%, but your labor is like super expensive. So if you put in more like higher fixtures or whatever, or like something more expensive, your budget doesn't go up by that much. It's not like, okay, I paid double for this fixture. Now my thing went up by like only a little bit, but the labor is like the biggest part of like the rehab over here in Hawaii, And so I'd say like you want to put in things that are comparable to your market, because if and so in India, one of the things I did is I on purpose try to go into markets where like I have like a minimum like rent that I want to go in, because I don't want to go into like the lower income where there's more headaches, higher turnover. But then if I was there, I might put in cheaper stuff, because depending on what where your comps in your market is going. So the idea I heard once, like you want to be like the best of your neighborhood. So like if your neighborhood is all like D class, you want to be like the best D class one inside there. If yours is like in the C class, you want to be like the best C class. And so my rehab, but it's hard to like really say, because India is like so cheap, like anything in general. But it's basically like I just want it to look nice and feel new, So like the not expensive stuff, but then like enough where like it's like a person who's renting or a person who's gonna sit there they feel like I'm happy to be here, just saying.
Right. It's almost like, so renovating to rent is more like functional. You're renovating the house to be functional. Let them decorate it or design it as
but you want to have like high ARV, so then you want to take that into account. So like whatever you think will give you a higher ARV, that's part of the thing, is like you don't need to go out to the nines, but you want to say like, hey, is this thing going to give me a higher ARV when I run this?
Because it still has to appraise for you to get a, So And if you're renovating to flip nowadays, like in Hawaii's market, like you gotta worry about the aesthetics. Like you gotta design the thing, like maybe barn doors or like upgrade all the windows, make it
Like
look.
you don't have to. I mean, like honestly, houses sell no matter what. But then like it looks nicer on the gram, and then also like it's just you guys put out like such good products, like you, Corey, like Richie, all those guys, like Indar. You guys like much like such good products. Like it's you give like flippers a good name, just like the things you do, and like and they really go high, like and then you got like a rock star like Ashley selling it for you. I mean, just like it's Hawaii, that's like the way to go. And the thing is, it's not much different, in price because you're paying for the labor, right? So
yeah. Well, your tenants are lucky to have you as their landlord, bro. You're a good guy. Thank you for sharing, so much. And I guess before I kind of send it back to you for final words, I just wanted to bring on Alex and Scott because we're working on securing a partnership right now to be the takeout guys for you guys doing BRRRRs, and if we can solidify this product, then basically we'll crush all the portfolio guys, like we'll
please, please give us a guy here that we can work with to do our financing for us.
Yeah, so that's coming soon, and I don't even know if we're ready to talk about it. Alex, maybe you can chime in, or Kikoa, because you guys met with our guy Steve out there in Vegas. So if it's not time, then we can hold off, but coming soon, very soon.
We can chat about it a little bit. He has the ability to beat Franny and Freddie if he wants. So he has a $250 million credit line, and he's deploying about up to $350 a month. And these are all conventional, even FHA, VA. It's only 1 to 4, unit. It's not commercial, so he won't be our guy for commercial, but he's not on the island yet. So we're working with him in the states that he is in to show him that we can send him a lot of deals, so he'll open up with us on the islands. So we can give you guys more of an opportunity to really, just have that one relationship working with us, as long as you're happy, that is. But to make sure that we can give you guys the best rates possible and hopefully even beat Franny and Freddie, which I think is going to be really, really cool. And look, guys, we're working on a deal right now. In 3 days, the appraiser is going out there on a conventional loan. He can close in 2 to 3 weeks. So that's going to be pretty awesome.
Is there seasoning too? We need to show up on season.
As far as I know, no, it just needs to be, I think the lease needs just to be issued. And I think maybe at most 30 days seasoning should be all we need.
Like soup, that's such a huge value. Like if you guys pull that off, honestly, like that's gonna like supercharge any of us investors. Like that's
He's already doing
it. Supercharge you guys.
Yeah, we're gonna work on closing that out, and then that's gonna help everybody. I couldn't.
It'll be asset based, Dante.
Yeah.
There's still be debt to income ratio, and credit's going to matter as well, but it's more of it will be based off the asset. And the nice thing is our capital partner is the direct lender. So if he wants to pull the trigger, he can pull the trigger. We don't have to wait for any of the approvals.
Yeah.
So that's why we can move so fast with this guy. So we will we'll be getting.
We're testing one deal right now. Yeah, no, I was just going to add, Alex, just an update on that. We were testing that one deal. Application went in on Tuesday. Appraiser is literally on site right this moment, like within 3 days later. We'll have the appraisal report an hour after the appraiser walks the property. And so we'll be closing super fast. So the value of that is, as investors, that you can make really aggressive deals on these residential up to 4 units and, promise a really quick close, quick appraisals. And it's pretty incredible. So we're just testing it still. We're going to run a couple deals through it, and if it works out good, then we can really launch it.
So that's coming soon. And
hey, are you guys saying this is for BRRRRs also?
Yes.
For long term?
Yeah.
For long term residential.
And
he just closed did a deal for a friend that was a 15-year investment loan, 2%.
That's like free money.
Wow. Okay. Okay. And so, any chance this guy will want to lend against that non-judicial foreclosure one I've been talking about?
Probably,
Probably not. I know
I'm
it's a
gonna
long
say
shot,
probably
but
not. I'm sorry.
I got one right
only
now.
about half
Guys,
of the value.
I mean, like, I don't know how soon you guys timeline is, but I got one right now that's ready to refinance if you guys can pull that
Well,
off.
Indianapolis, I think he's doing loans out there already, right? So let's run it. Let's see. You know, let's go for it.
Yeah, I believe we can do 34 states with him right now.
Yeah. And basically, once we have proof of concept and we know we can close, we know the process, then it's basically like he points where he wants us to go and we go. You know, we'll go kick down the doors of whatever market and service the investors out there who are buying properties who need, you know, residential long-term financing. So, one thing too, Scott we have a need, and Scott, I'll let you kind of put it out there to the group. Hopefully someone can help us.
Hey, everyone. Listen, first I want to thank Daniel so much for being on the call. It was so informative. And I don't know if anyone doesn't know Daniel. He's one of our best investors, greatest guys, gets you what we need all the time. And like I said, he's one of the greatest people you ever want to meet. So thank you, Daniel. And Daniel, you bring up a point, like we do a lot of business now with Bigger Pockets since the podcast that we got endorsed on. And the problem we're having is these appraisers across the nation, they don't know how to do ARVs, most of them. So if you know any good appraisers in your area, please put them in the chat so we can get them onto our platforms with our AMCs. So anyone that knows a good appraiser, please put them down for us. That's all we ask.
Appraisers are like
gold.
Yeah, good appraisers.
They're deal breakers, you know, and we do more appeals than the government, I swear. But yeah, so thanks. I really appreciate anyone that can help us out on that end.
Yeah, and Daniel kind of gave the final nudge to me and Layla and Alex and Scott and all the boys to pursue the conventional side. So
it's been sold. I mean, like, it's a no-brainer. I mean, how can you guys have not? I mean, it's just, and you guys are gonna crush it too. Yeah, you guys are gonna crush it, man.
Yeah, so that'll be coming soon. And I'm putting it out there so that everybody on the call here holds us accountable. It's gonna be a gnarly ride because the conventional space is highly regulated. There's a lot of processes, you know, like when you're actually a bank for, you know, long-term financing conventional, now, you know, all the eyeballs, all the feds are looking in on everything, right? So we got to play by the rules, which we always do. So I have no worry about that. But with that too, you don't know what you don't know, right? It's a new space. So thank you, Daniel, for that. And we're dragging him along. Like, he's going to get his license, his mortgage license, and we're gonna.
You guys are gonna offer something for like investors where honestly, like, I talked to a lot of these loan officers and I explained and they don't know like the rules of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. It's like I'm like, no, it clearly says it over here in this line, and I mean, like, of course, a lot of them probably don't care, don't read, because they just only focus on like the typical purchase of a new homeowner. But I mean, if you guys start offering conventional, you can offer like so much more creative or help the investor to like make themselves look correctly as far as like what they need to do in order to like to qualify for these conventional financing. So you guys are gonna have like a huge value add to the community.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that meeting, by the way. Daniel sends me a text like, hey, can we meet? You know, like talk about some, you know, this. And when you tell me when you ask me to meet, like, I'm like, okay, something's up, you know. And sure enough, you know, that was a great talk, and got to hear about your finance or your deals out in Indy. So, and congratulations on a good deal, and thanks for sharing all the information. Somebody was asking if you could share your BRRR calculator. I think that was Rashawn.
Yeah, I can share that. Yeah.
Maybe in the Facebook group or something. You know, I think people really appreciate that, especially people who are, you know, going to be moving from equity deals to, you know, cash flow deals, or maybe people who are already in cash flow deals, right? So thank you guys for staying this long. I know we went over, but I mean, hey, this is information. They don't, teach you this in college or anything like that. Like it's all, you got to learn from each other, right? And Daniel's been learning the last couple of years and kicking booty.
Beast. Hey guys, before we go to, I want to throw in one thing. I think we'll put a poll in our Facebook group, but I think we get a lot of really good speakers between all the content we've had. And I honestly think that we could do a coffee talk conference. And I don't know where the location is or where it is, but I think it would be a good event, to get us all together. I think most of us are in Hawaii. Some people I'm sure wouldn't mind doing a tax write-off trip to Hawaii to come to a coffee talk event, for us all to like really meet together and like sit down and do some serious masterminding and then highlight everybody's favorite speakers. We'll put a poll up when we decide to do it and ask who everyone wants to see more of. And hopefully I think it's something that we should do. But
I like it. I like that idea. Yeah. Let's plan that.
You are a genius.
That's a great idea. As soon as this quarantine is lifted, Mama Cheryl is working on that for us. She's fighting the politicians. So anyways, thank you guys. Thank you, Daniel. Really appreciate it. Thank you guys for throwing all your great questions in the chat. Everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Aloha.
Guys.
Right on. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Daniel.
We need the HON2 News music.
Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, Corey.
Got it. Thank you, guys.
Bye, guys.
Yeah, I see you on there, bro.
Hey, thank you, Daniel. And thank you, Corey, for hosting this.
Hey, what's up, Tim?
What's up, man?
Great to see you. All right.
Hey, Alex, when you coming back?
Bro, when they let me in, your governor keeps trying to block me out. Not ready for me to light up the island, man.
Not ready. You're not ready.
Not ready.
That was a great presentation, man. I took away some huge nuggets.
Yeah, I'm telling you, this one's gonna kill it on YouTube.
I want to share this one. This is good.
Yeah, I still have more tips that I didn't get to yet. So I mean,
well, look, we're doing coffee talk conference. It's coming up. You're gonna need to be ready for that. Richie too. We're gonna have the best lineup ever, man. Investors are gonna want to come to our event. That's gonna be the difference. Like the events we go to, it's a whole bunch of lenders. They're not as exciting as the actual clients. Like what you guys do is so much more exciting. I mean, we love giving you money. Don't get me wrong, and it's fun. But like seeing what you guys do with the properties, where the real knowledge is, that's where the real nuggets is especially for financial freedom for everyone. And I think most of us are after that.
The lending conferences are very dry. Our team's like, I don't know. Like I think we bring a fresh energy to the conference.
Watching Alex at the Fortune Builders event, just go and just talk to people, man. That was like I have my popcorn ready, man. Alex is so much fun.
Alex is a beast. I gotta follow him, like, cause we just go, hey, what's your name? That's how I met Alex. This guy came from across the side at the Pitbull conference in Beverly Hills. I'll never forget this. Came across the side, beeline. I could see him through my peripheral, just coming. I was like, this guy. Somebody's like just coming, like darting straight, like targeting, It just barges into the conversation. Hey, what's your name? What do you guys got? Like, hey.
The rest is history, guys. The rest is history.
The rest is history.
He is a master networker. I seen it in person.
Yeah. Guy's a beast.
Who wouldn't want to talk to all of you? I mean, come on. I got to get out there, meet you guys.
Who else is on? Brian's leaving us. He's moving to Kansas City.
Sad.
You should do what Daniel's doing. Invest in Kansas City from Hawaii.
I know, man. Like,
I need more cash flow than that. It's too slow.
That was a sweet deal.
He's gonna do it the other way. He's gonna move to KC and invest in Hawaii.
Yeah. Make a little bit of different flips from KC in Hawaii. It's too easy for you, Brian.
I wouldn't say that, or I wouldn't be moving to go get more cash flow for my overhead. But yeah, I will not be done flipping in Hawaii. That's for sure.
better,
As long as
man.
brother Richie will have me from 4,000 miles away, but we'll scratch each other's back. Hopefully, he'll manage our flips, I'll manage our burrs, and we'll be good. It'll be a race. Who can
That's
do
a
more?
good idea, right?
I like it. I
I
like
just
it.
made that up on the spot, and it actually sounds really good now that it came out.
You could have kept that to yourself, bro.
Whatever. I'm an open book, good or bad.
You totally are. That's
Yeah,
why
you
we
are.
love you.
We love you, Brian. We love you.
Jin Lim, what's up, bro? Jin,
Not much, man.
good seeing you last night.
Yeah, it was good seeing everyone last night. Seeing Daniel Kong, just met him last night. Brian, Richie, I saw you again, Richie. But yeah, it was good to see people in person, even though it was kind of skirting the line of.
What you guys talking about? Nothing happened last night.
Yeah, what are you guys talking about? What the heck?
You guys
We're
had a
still
Zoom
recording.
meeting,
Cut
right?
this out. But yeah, no, just listening to today's thing. Wow, like I met Daniel Kong last night, and I was just like, all right, like I want to go listen to this guy talk, and holy crap, I was taking notes, dude. Like, just so many good pieces of information that, especially because I'm about to do a refinance, right, of my BRRRR, but I was gonna wait till December, and then now that you told me your little ninja secret of using rate and term refinancing, I'm like, maybe I should explore that option. And yeah, and then Corey, you talked about what your new product, right, of cash out refinancing or something like that.
That's coming
So I
soon.
might talk to you guys as well, just explore all my different options, or if I just want to go the traditional wait 6 months and refinance out. So
You know, you can close on the 6 month, yeah. So start the process earlier. A lot of these lenders are gonna take 60 days. So if you're 4 months in, just start it early, because that means like you can sign the docs on the 6 month like day,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're gonna start talking to lenders next month, but maybe I should kick it into high gear and just go ahead and get it started now.
Nice. You, Jin, you and Daniel, like you guys think a lot. You're really smart, and analytical. So I think I see why there's a click, yeah, last night. Last night
Yeah.
went crazy. I didn't think it was gonna be that packed.
Yeah, I was helping them out with it, and we had people like show up at the door and paid at the door, and
Oh,
CJ
yeah.
didn't expect that. He was like, "Whoa, we have way more than we expected." So all around it was good.
Well,
Hopefully,
Cheryl said it was 5. It's supposed to be 5 people. We definitely have more than 5 people.
Yeah, we had 5. We had 5 people. It was 5. I counted 5.
You just don't know how to count. No one knows how to count to 5. You got to use 5 hands, right? 5 fingers, 1.
I like 5 in like I don't know how many areas, but yeah, it was 5.
Yeah.
5 per area, right? I mean,
5 per area.
Social distancing, it's okay. 5 in a group, we're good.
Yeah. That was good times. Hey, Tristan and Kamohai, are you guys selling Hawaii Kai yet? Is that in escrow?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in escrow. Just finished J1 last week. We had to fix like the pool gate, but that's basically it. So they're all in. We're moving along smoothly on that one. Yeah.
What's the closing dates? The October 8th, I think.
October 8th.
Do you guys want to do a presentation on that? Because
Yeah,
it was beautiful. The rehab is beautiful. Yeah.
Awesome.
Or maybe
Yeah,
the other one that you guys just closed out too. Was that 8th Ave or
16th Ave, 1308. Yeah. Key.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally down.
Ken?
We'll get everything together, and yeah, I don't know, maybe next week or something. But yeah, we are hungry and looking for deals. So I mean, just in, everybody's kind of looking for the same thing, but yeah, we're looking for fix and flip stuff. We really want to get into BRRRRing too. I mean, our goal obviously is to buy and hold. So we're looking in other markets as well. But yeah, we love this. Would love to sit down with like each and every one of you guys and have lunch, see what kind of value we could add to you. But yeah.
So
Alex, so I don't. You've seen
We did their loans.
Yeah, I gotta call you Corbett because Scott has the hardest time. Scott has the hardest time saying Cabo High.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I,
when
think,
you're
I don't,
on the
I don't
line,
think
I'm gonna
Scott and
call
I
you.
are the best with the Hawaii names yet. We're working on it. We're working on it. Some of the
There you
streets,
go.
I'm just like, I just spell it to Corey. I'm like, you got this? What is this one?
Nah, you're pretty good, bro. You catch on pretty good.
I try, but sometimes it's just, I don't know. Leslie, I get on the phone with Leslie because you guys all know we use Leslie. And she's like, where's it at? What's the street name? I'm like, oh, shit.
You gotta spell it.
Oh, man. I know the number.
Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't you get, you were down at Fortune Builders last year, right? Did you guys come to Fortune Builders last year?
No, we didn't. We didn't go down there. We are a part of it, but yeah, we couldn't make it out last year.
You gonna go this year?
Are they doing it this year?
I think so.
I heard they are.
Yeah.
I heard they are. We'll see.
Yeah.
Alex is in Vegas right now. What does it look like in Vegas right now?
They just opened up the bars yesterday or 2 days ago. So they opened all the bars. The casinos are all open. Like the only thing that's not open is nightlife. Like nightlife's not really open. Like the nightclubs are lounges. So like 50% capacity, but still, I mean, they're still allowing, I think they're saying like no groups over 50 right now, but that's supposed to lift here soon too.
There you go. Yeah, I don't know if we can get some sitters for our little ones. I mean, that's like the biggest thing. 3 and a 2-year-old. So.
Ooh. Those are fun ages.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
crazy ages, but yeah, super fun.
Super fun.
You think they'll be ready? Vegas will be ready by December to help hold, because you saw I mean, the conference is massive, right? So
yeah, it is massive. It just depends if the governor allows it. I think that's really going to be the biggest key, because I mean that main room was what, a couple thousand people in there.
Oh yeah.
When we watched Magic Johnson at the end, it was like there's got to be 2,000 people in that room.
Yeah.
So,
there's a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it'll come down to the governor lifting the restrictions, but they're a lot further ahead here than Hawaii, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yep. Gotta cheer on Mama Cheryl over there. Go get him. Go.
Yeah, please.
I mean, it's a hard call. Like, I talk a lot of shit, but like at the end of the day, I wouldn't want to be making that call. You know, it's such a tough decision. So yeah. But
yeah. Either way, some people are gonna love your decision, some people are gonna hate it.
yeah, no matter what, there's gonna be both sides. So like you gotta feel for him a little bit, the governor and the mayor, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. Even when they speak, there's no confidence, you know. There's no that's something you can't control, you know, as a leader. You know, just speak with confidence and, you know, instill hope. So
and it's so true, Corey. You know, at the end of the day, like anything else, after this pandemic is over, everybody's going to look back and look at who were the heroes, who were the leaders, and who made decisions that really set us back. Yeah. That's what's really sad, right? It's like you and Kiko right now, right? You guys are leaders, you know, and people will look back and say, oh my God, I learned this from the coffee talk, and that motivated me to go do my first flip. That's what you guys are doing. You guys are leading, you know, and it's really sad. It's really sad.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I wouldn't want to be making that call, but, you know, there's so many like brilliant people in our state, you know, a lot of them are business owners, you know, and really smart, but I think there's a reason why they're not in that position, right? Nobody wants that position because I don't know. Yeah. You're handcuffed like in politics. So
Hey, are you there? Sasha has she's using Bank of Hawaii to refinance out more than do you know what the numbers are for her thing? Because there's a delayed financing exemption where you can take out more than 75% of the purchase price, but then you're limited to like the total loan amount can't exceed the purchase price. So that's how you can get the higher ARV. But if your BRRR is like a BRRR where it's like you're not gonna exceed the 75% doesn't exceed the purchase price, then you can do the delayed financing immediately. But if it goes over the purchase price, that's when you need the seasoning. So I'm wondering if she is exceeding the purchase price, or is it like using the delayed financing exception? Does that make sense?
Kind of. So I think she's gonna be all in about maybe 500K, and the ARV is gonna be close to 800K when rehab is done. And a rehab's supposed to take 3 months.
So she's the Bank of Hawaii told her she can finance out 75% of the 800, like.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
she's,
got 600.
yeah.
That's like if that's true, like Bank of Hawaii is like, that's really, really huge if they are. Because I know they offer some portfolio loans, and when I talked to them earlier, they said that they do have some portfolio products. And so like, if that's the case, like that's like huge for us.
Okay, and this is on her personal, I don't know if that matters,
Well, yeah,
but she's using a conventional,
yeah.
the loan officer here on Maui is a friend of ours. So she just got on the phone and was like, what do you guys need? Do you guys need the renters in there for so long? And he's like, no. They're like, as soon as you're done with your rehab, we can probably do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
You talked to them already though, right, Daniel?
So I talked to them, and everybody told me, I mean, the Fannie Mae Freddie Mac doesn't allow that. So, but then Bank of Hawaii has a portfolio loan product that like they loan outside of so it's not, they hold in their books, right? It's like a commercial, but they told me that their portfolio loan product still follows like the Fannie Mae guidelines for the most part. Like, I wouldn't get a delayed financing exemption. I mean, I wouldn't be able to put on money faster than 6 months according to the Bank of Hawaii loan officer over here. But of course, loan officers is like they say different things, and like what I mean, it matters who you're talking to. And if there's some branch manager that can like bypass that, like a decision maker, right? So because if they're not going to sell it on the Fannie Mae Freddie Mac, they can basically make their own rules and just say like, we're going to do like, you're going to be like, we can decide what on a case by case basis. Yeah. So.
Hey, Daniel, the regional, I don't know exactly his title, regional SVP or something like that. I don't know. At Bank of Hawaii is kind of a buddy of mine. And him and his wife are kind of friends of mine, and they kind of have always taken care of me. I think I've mentioned this maybe on Coffee Talk before, but anyways, if you kind of need if you want to send me an email, I can send you an email intro to him, and then also John Murakami. And I always kind of like, they always hook up my friends. They always make sure that they're well taken care of. So, I mean, they can't really, they can make some small exceptions, although that being kind of a bigger bank, they can't really like bypass DTI things, like they can't do like anything huge, but they can kind of like push little things by and help make sure. And they've always done that really well for me and everybody that I've referred to them. So anyways, if you need something from them, shoot me an email and I'll.
Thank you so much, Craig. Thank you too, Tay. That's like very, very helpful.
Awesome, guys. I want to do one day maybe like identifying emerging markets, like and see what we come up with. Like, what is the best hidden gems out there, like emerging markets where like they have master plans for infrastructure development in cities that we can get in on the ground floor and kind of ride it up, and go in there heavy.
Detroit.
I don't know, man. Detroit's been down for a while, yeah.
They're cheap though, man. So get on the ground floor right there. So
yeah.
I heard Detroit was booming.
I heard this. They're making moves. People are saying there's like rehabs on every street. I mean, I don't know how true that is. High risk, but I mean.
Are they giving tax incentives to developers and investors coming in, or? I know they did that for in New Orleans when they got wiped out by the hurricane. they gave big tax incentives to developers and investors coming in to help with the housing, rebuilding of the housing. But yeah, I want to identify emerging markets. Pretty soon we'll be moving more towards, passive income again, and kind of staying cash heavy, ready to pounce on deals like that you got, Daniel. That's inspiring me, man. That was a sweet deal. Sweet deal. Well, all right, guys, I'm gonna get going. I think I have the control, so I might end the call if I log off. So hopefully not, if you guys can want to hang around. But I'll see you guys next week on the call.
Thank you guys.
Hey guys, have a good weekend.
Thank
everybody.
you guys.